I never imagined I would find myself grappling with the pain of infidelity. Throughout my marriage, I had dedicated myself fully to my wife, Amanda, pouring my heart and soul into making her happy. We had shared 5 years together, 2 of which were spent as a married couple, and I genuinely believe we were a strong partnership, one that others admired and looked up to. Our lives seemed picture perfect. A cozy apartment that reflected our shared tastes, regular date nights that rekindled our romance, and a sense of security that lulled me into complacency. But when the facade began to crumble, it became painfully clear just how naive I had been. The signs of trouble started subtly, almost imperceptibly. Amanda became increasingly distant, often returning home late from work. She cited never-ending meetings or projects that demanded her attention, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Her behavior changed in other ways, too. She grew unusually protective of her phone, taking it with her to the bathroom or placing it face down on the table when we were together. These small signs should have raised a red flag, but I chose to trust her, perhaps out of fear of confronting an uncomfortable truth. The very thought that the woman I cherished could betray me was too painful to entertain. The turning point came one evening when I unexpectedly arrived home early, hoping to surprise Amanda. As I entered our apartment, I was greeted by the sound of her laughter, a joyful sound I hadn't heard in a long time. It struck me as odd, and as I approached the source of the laughter, it abruptly ceased. I caught her on a phone call, speaking in hushed tones, and though I couldn't discern all the words, the warmth in her voice was unmistakably intimate. At that moment, I should have confronted her, but instead, I chose to remain silent, pretending that everything was fine. In the days that followed, I became more observant, and it became increasingly clear that something was hidden beneath the surface. Amanda often had late-night outings, justifying them as meetups with friends or work functions. The more I observed, the more my suspicions grew. I felt compelled to uncover the truth. One night, feigning a late work commitment, I parked a few blocks away from our apartment and waited, determined to find out what was really going on. To my disbelief, a sleek black car pulled up and out stepped Chris, the man I had seen on her phone. My heart raced as I snapped a few pictures, my hands trembling with the weight of the evidence I was gathering. Amanda greeted him with a kiss that shattered my world and stirred a deep sense of betrayal within me. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I chose to keep the photos to myself, allowing her to dig a deeper hole. I wanted to maintain my composure and gather my thoughts before addressing the painful truth. Finally, a few days later, I confronted her in the living room, spreading the damning photos out on the coffee table. When she walked in and caught sight of the images, her expression instantly shifted to one of dread. She tried to deny everything, but I interrupted her, insisting she acknowledge the reality before us. When Amanda finally admitted to seeing Chris, her words struck like daggers. She described him as everything I wasn't: confident, successful, and exciting. As I absorbed her betrayal, I felt my heart shatter. There were no apologies, only explanations that diminished my value in her eyes and revealed how deeply she had strayed from our commitment. In that moment, I realized our relationship was beyond repair. Gathering my strength, I stood up and began packing my belongings, refusing to beg her to reconsider. I filed for divorce shortly thereafter, determined not to prolong the agony of our unraveling marriage. But the real consequences of her actions were just beginning to unfold. I took the necessary steps to freeze our joint bank accounts, ensuring she couldn't access the financial resources she relied upon. In a moment of clarity, I also made the decision to inform Chris's wife of his infidelity, sending her all the evidence I had gathered. It felt like the right thing to do, a way to ensure that no one would escape the consequences of their actions. As I distanced myself from Amanda, she attempted to reach out, pleading for another chance. Yet, I remembered the choice she made to betray me and chose to ignore her desperate pleas. The months that followed were focused on rebuilding my life. I dedicated myself to fitness, advanced my career, and even began dating again. With every small victory, I discovered that I could thrive without Amanda, and my confidence blossomed in ways I had never anticipated. Meanwhile, Amanda faced the repercussions of her choices. Once Chris's wife learned the truth, he abandoned her, leaving her without a safety net. The life she had come to take for granted began to crumble around her, including the apartment that had once felt like our sanctuary, but was now too costly for her to maintain alone. Several months later, Amanda reached out with an apology, claiming she had made a terrible mistake. Ironically, the woman who once insisted Chris was everything I was not now found herself pleading for my return after losing both him and me. But I had come to understand my worth, and knew I was better off without her. Despite her attempts to elicit sympathy, the reality was stark. She had made her choices, and now she had to live with the consequences. I finally felt a sense of freedom, and was resolved not to let anyone take that away from me again.